Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be doing an upgrade for my EZGO golf cart here. So the Trojan batteries I have on here are pretty much on their way out. I actually recently just replaced one of them because the cells died just to keep it limping along, and it got me by for about 2 months. But recently I found a deal on some lithium iron phosphate batteries. We're going to go ahead and do the swap today. Before we could do that, we actually have to do a little bit of upgrading, a little bit of reorganizing in the battery cell so we can get the new batteries in and make it all look good. So stay tuned. So I recently picked up these batteries, these eco-worthies, on a slick deal. They were like $160 each. They're usually like $200, but there was a 20% off sale on President's Day. So I got these, I'm opening them up now. It looks like they come with the terminals right here, a little wrench for the terminals, and new spade connectors if you have to make your own wires. All right, so before I install them, I'm gonna go ahead and do an initial charge on these. I'm gonna connect them all in parallel and just charge them with one of my battery chargers that can charge lithium. And I wanna basically just top them all off at the same voltage. So what I'm gonna do is just put them all in parallel since they're 12 volts and just charge it with my 12-volt car charger right now. So what I did was I just hooked up everything temporarily with just some wires to the lugs right there, and you can actually just leave it like this and let it all sit overnight and just balance itself out as far as the voltage goes, because the higher voltage is gonna drain to the lower voltage and vice versa, just so it evens out. But what we're gonna do is gonna go ahead and just top it off with the charger, leave it overnight before we put it into the golf cart. So to charge these lithium batteries, you actually need a specialty charger. Luckily, I've got this Topdon Tornado 4000. It's actually got a lithium setting right here that also works on this lithium iron phosphate. We'll go ahead and use that setting to charge this baby. So down here, I just ended up clamping the center post because that's the one that kind of spreads it evenly between the two. It probably doesn't really matter because it's all in parallel anyways, but I'll go ahead and plug it in and set it to that lithium setting now. That in. Once we plug it in, we want to go here, double click it all the way till you get to the lithium setting, and it'll hit it once to confirm, then it goes solid, and then it'll start charging. And right now it'll show 25%, but once it gets a steady state, it'll know what it's at. So as you see, it already popped up to 75% there. So most likely it's more than 75% charge, and this is gonna go to 100 overnight. All right, I've let this thing run for about 12-13 hours. We're at 100%. Go ahead and just disconnect it now. I'm gonna measure the voltage before just to see what it is after I unplug it. We're getting about 13.2 across all these cells since they're in parallel right now. Earlier, before, which I didn't show on camera, I think I was measuring 13.15 was the voltage before I charged it. So right here are my Trojan batteries. They actually are about to die because, you know, these things only have maybe a 4 to 5 year life. And this bank over here, which only has 2 left, were like February 2019. It's about 5 years on those now, and they're just starting to swell up and go bad right now. This one right here was also one of those February 19 ones that died on me, and I replaced it. So this one's basically 2 months old right there. The 3 on this side, which are really, look at all the bubbling and they're getting wet right now. These are the 2020s. I think these had an L2020 on them. So they're late 2020, so they're probably a little over 3 years old right now. And they're starting to show signs of wear right now. So right now I can't get more than about 2 miles range on these, taking my kids to school and back. That's why I want to go ahead and just swap them out now. So what we need to do is get under here. If you guys have worked on these batteries before, if you guys have worked under the batteries of an EZGO, all you have to do is just pull it off of the hinges right here, the seat, and this whole thing comes out and we can work with it. So my theory on why these things aren't holding charge, I think these two, which are the oldest 2 right now, are just holding it back. They're probably not holding enough charge and they're starting to swell, which is putting a lot of strain on these other 3. With these being about 3 years old, a little over 3 years old, they shouldn't be drained. They still probably have another 2 years of life on them if you take care of them. So those things should be still good. I know that one's good because I just bought it 2 months ago. But yeah, I think these two right now are affecting my range as far as my torque and just going. Once I get up to speed, it moves pretty good. It's just the initial takeoff that it's struggling with these two right here, kind of holding it back. And you can usually test that too by just seeing what the voltages are on each of the batteries and seeing how consistent they are. I know these two, when I measure them, they're pretty much lower than the 3 over here or that brand new one. Oh man, you guys saw that struggle of me taking these last 3 on the backside out. Those things were just wedged in there, probably from the swelling that's been happening. But look at all this buildup. I just took this apart like 2 months ago and cleaned all this crap out. In the last 2 months, it's built up this much corrosive acid and everything else right here now. So I'm gonna go ahead and scrape this all off, vacuum it up, and then go ahead and clean this all up. And I'm gonna go ahead and coat this with a new coat of paint for the corrosion resistance, and then cut a piece of wood to fit in here. So I ended up scrubbing that thing and vacuuming up all the acid and everything that built up. And I sprayed some Super Clean over there right on it. And since Super Clean is alkaline base, it cleaned up all that corrosion really fast. It basically just neutralized all the acid. Was able to just scrub off and clean most of these areas right there. As you can see, with it being bare metal now, I'm gonna have to go ahead and hit it with some spray paint just to protect it before I cut a new piece of wood so we could put it in here and fit it all up. So I picked up this plank board right here. It's a paint grade panel. It's much better than plywood, and I'm gonna use it as the floor on this thing and a wall. These things were like $8 a piece, which was actually cheaper than regular lumber. It's just a bunch of, looks like glued together scrap pieces. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut this down to 22 by 9 3/4 to fit right into that tray. So I just got done spraying it. I actually used the Seymour rust converter. It's supposed to react with any kind of corrosion or rust and turn it all black chemically. So that will treat a lot of our rust and corrosion on here, but it also gives us a nice matte finish. So pretty much get it all done. Let this dry up and then put on the boards. I'm gonna go ahead and paint those boards just a regular black so that way it all matches everything. All right, I was able to paint everything, put this backboard and everything back in here, and then bolt it actually to the back of here. There's 2 bolts on each side. I just drilled a hole. I actually had to replace those screws right there with some Allen keys that were longer that I had, some Allen bolts there, but it fits now and it holds that back plate and the bottom right there. So that's pretty secure as far as this piece goes. I did cut another piece up here to cover the water or anything that gets in there. So now I've got all this space. I'm test fitting the batteries right now. So the 2 batteries here kind of fit into the original slots in between the little rails there. And then this one I had to put sideways just so I can put it in there, because I put that backboard right there that took up a lot of my space. But other than that, that should be good there. And then I'm gonna put my charger over here that I have as an onboard charger, and this kind of keeps the water and the moisture away from there. I still have the 12-volt converter that I have to put in here, and also that little shunt thing for the gauge and everything that I have to put on here. Decided to flip it around and change the layout just a little bit so the terminals be closer to my cord back here, and then also make it easier for me to do the jumper for the series connection. Before I do anything permanent, I'm gonna go ahead and just connect this up to see if everything works and the cart moves. So I went ahead and made the connections right here between all the batteries. I turned it on and we're showing 39.6 volts. So that's a good sign there. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can step on this and see if it goes forward. Something's wrong. It's It's not doing anything as far as moving. All right, I figured it out. When I was doing this thing, I unplugged the pedal harness right there that goes over here down the center to the pedal. So now that I plug the pedal back up, it actually moves. It's a bit torquey, yep, but it's moving forward. So that's a good sign. I'm gonna go ahead and just button up this install right now and get all the stuff mounted. So now that we confirmed everything works, I think I'm pretty good with the setup on my battery right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put down my D-hooks for the straps to hold the batteries on. All right, I got everything mounted there, as you can see on this side. And then we got it on this side over here for the straps. Over here, I didn't have enough room onto the board, so I just ended up self-tapping right into the frame there. So that's gonna be a good anchor spot for the battery tie downs. All right, I went ahead, put those things right there. These straps I had laying around, I had a bunch of these just laying around all my tools, so I went ahead and used that. Other people sometimes use ratchet straps, but these little straps right here should be good enough to keep these things from sliding around. For monitoring the battery and everything on board, I've got this battery monitor right here. It's color monitor, and then it has this shunt block right here that we basically just put onto the ground side of the batteries, and it measures and it keeps track of the battery charge, the amperage, and everything. So this one's pretty advanced compared to just that regular voltage monitor that I installed a couple months back for the other batteries. This one actually gives you real diagnostics, and it keeps track of actual real-time usage because it's in line with the battery consumption. So this screen and monitor and this plug, I just picked all this stuff on Amazon. If you guys need to check out these same items, check out my links down in the description of this video. So in addition to all the other stuff that we have to install to use these lithium batteries, I'm going to end up putting this battery balancer right here. So EZGO Worthy, the same people that make the batteries, they also make this balancer right here. So you need this battery balancer when you're doing batteries in series, especially lithium, to make sure they're all the same voltage so everything works properly. So the point of this thing is it basically connects to the negative and positive of each of the batteries that we put in, and it keeps the charge pretty much distributed equally. It'll take the high charge from one battery and put it on another battery that's low charge. The one annoying thing that I hear from the reviews is this thing makes a whining or a high-pitched noise when it's installed and working on the actual cart. In addition, I picked up this 36 to 12 volt converter. Generally, when you're using lead acid, you could connect to 2 or 3 of the cells and get the voltage you need. But since this is all lithium, we have to actually pull the high voltage and just convert it down. That way we don't drain one of the batteries over another. That's why we're using this balancer right here. So this thing's a 20 amp version. Again, if you need any of these products that I'm using today, check out the links down in the description to go check these things out yourself. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the shunt block. I'm going to put it right here by the negative terminal. We have to pass the negative from the battery through here and then onto our terminal on this side right here. Next, it needs a positive signal right here to the positive line, and it comes with this red wire. We just need to cut it down and put a spade connector on it so we can actually go into this hole right here, and that pretty much installs the shunt piece. And then we got to run the harness right here all the way to the front and actually cut a hole so we can mount that screen right up here. So we'll go ahead and do that piece right now. So I was in the middle of installing this. I got it onto the board, but then when I started tightening down the nut to get that cord or cable on, the plexiglass broke. So make sure when you're tightening it down, don't over tighten it because this plexiglass might break on you. So what I'm going to end up doing is actually returning this because it's broken and getting a new one. And then when I do tighten it, you probably want to take this off right here, this plexiglass, tighten it with the 17 millimeter on both sides, and then put it back on the plexiglass and mount it up. That way you don't risk breaking it like I did. Aside from that mishap with the shunt right here, the shunt unit, I mounted that converter right here. I ended up soldering more wires on here, and then I just crimped it or butt connected it over there to my headlights and tail lights there. I mounted the battery balancer right here, and I'm gonna use 3 of the 4 because this thing does 48 volt. This thing does 48 and 38 volts. This does 48 and 36 volts, so I just tied the one that we're not using, so I'm going to end up connecting those once I get the battery in. But aside from that, I think pretty much this is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and put the battery back in. The next thing I gotta make now is a mount for the charger over here, so I can mount that thing. So for the charger, we're gonna use this HTRC one right here. It's a 36 and 48 volt smart charger, and I'm just gonna go ahead and mount it on board. This thing is not waterproof, so you gotta make sure you put it in an area that won't get wet and it won't get too much moisture or anything in it. And then this thing comes with the clips right there, but it also comes with a plug. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that plug and hardwire it to the actual cart. So to mount this thing, I think I'm gonna have to make a bracket and kind of mount it vertically right here, because I need the cord to come out from the bottom and then the power of the cord to come on top. In addition, I'm gonna take this thing out right here and put a replacement round plug right here that plugs up to an extension cord, so that way I just plug it straight to any power source and then have the charger on board right here. To make the bracket for it, I've got this little piece of aluminum right here. It's 1/16 aluminum I picked up at Lowe's. I'm gonna go ahead, measure it out, and then bend it in the vise here to try to get like a basically like a bell shape or a top hat shape, make a mount, and then I could just wedge it in there and mount it onto the thing. Alright, I was able to bend that bracket, fits nicely over here and pretty snug. I'm gonna end up putting this foam tape on the back side where it touches the actual thing. That way I don't damage it or anything when it's driving and vibrating. It also acts as a cushion for vibration and all that. The bottom of it has these rubber feet already, so that's good for just setting it off the actual thing. But yeah, once I fit it all in there, I'll drill 2 holes on here and then just screw it right into the wood. Right there, I got the foam in there. You can see on the side it squishes right there. The front, once it goes down, it gives it a good protective cushion. So I'm gonna go ahead, drill those holes and just bolt this thing up. So right here is the port that we're going to be installing for the charger. So this is just basically an extension cord, but it's got a 2-inch hole right here that we drill into the side of the body and just put that in where the existing plug is, and then we just plug an extension cord right into that hole. So to install that 120 volt outlet, I'm going to have to basically remove this thing right here, pull it all out, probably take the wires apart and just get rid of this plug. And there's this bracket right here that we're gonna have to cut off or bend out of the way so we can do it. In addition, I might have to notch this mount right here for the little battery tray just to clear a little bit right there. So I ended up bending this tab up to make some clearance for the 2-inch hole I need to drill. I went ahead and marked over here with the hole what I need, and then I've got my hole saw right here. I'm gonna try to keep it steady and actually cut the hole. It's gonna be a rough hole because I don't have anything for the center to actually drill into, so I gotta hold it steady when I drill it in. The template, all I did was I took that little rubber seal that's on here off, and it's got a perfect hole for it, and that's what I marked that little template hole right there for. So this hole saw is taking a long time to do. If you didn't know, this is an older EZGO metalless, so the body is actually metal instead of plastic, so cutting these holes isn't as easy. I might have to use a little reciprocating saw or a sawzall to try to cut this now. I was able to use a sawzall to cut that thing and got this thing notched even on that bracket on the inside there, so this thing fits now. I'm just gonna clean it up. I'm gonna clean it up with a file and just touch it up with some touch-up paint, clean some of this mess around the edges before I put this thing on and screw it in. So I took the molded plug apart right here, the one that comes with that charger, and it's all connected to right there, so I'm just gonna undo that and then just get this off and do a hardwire connection to the other end of it for the charging. All right, got this baby in there, perfect. We got the cap that drops down when we don't need it right there. On the other side, I ended up doing the wire management, hooking this up here, putting the power plug over to here, attaching it to the board, and pretty much got everything in place. Down here, zip tied that together. Last thing I need to do now is connect the charger to the factory plug here. So what I'm going to do is just cut this thing off and just solder it on. These are pretty thick wires, so I'm going to try to just do a solder and heat shrink direct wire, and then we should be good here. So I got this thing soldered back up, as you can see, with the heat shrink and everything right here. So we'll go ahead and wire manage this, get it all back together, and test it out, make sure everything charges before I make all the connections and put this thing back together. I made the connections again, plug this thing back in, and right now it's charging and running. You can hear the fans and everything running on the charger, and everything's on here. You can see it's monitoring how many amp hours it's charging. So this thing is a smart charger, so it does display its full charge or whatever it ends up charging as you go. So I got everything in except for that shunt thing right there for the power meter. I'm gonna end up doing that power meter on a separate video just because I want to detail the install of that and actually cutting everything over here. But for this video, we've got the charger up, we got the 36 to 12 volt converter, the battery balancer, and everything pretty much set up in here permanently. Just all the wire management and everything, keeping this baby clean with the outlet. All right, we got this thing out here now. We're gonna test it. Woo! Yeah, off the line. We got some speed now. I need to change this thing, but the voltage is not dropping any on this meter, but this meter is probably not accurate. Got 3 kids back here that I drive to school every day, so yep, this is our normal setup in here with these kids, and we're going pretty fast. Hey guys, thanks for joining me all the way to the end of this video on doing the batteries on here. As you can see, it's a very straightforward upgrade. Most of my time was spent just cleaning up everything that was left over from the lead acid, getting the boards in, getting everything painted, and doing all the wire management. If you didn't care about all that, you could probably just throw these things in, bolt them up, and wire them up, and you're ready to go. I do a little bit extra, as you can see, with everything, but I like it clean, and I like everything kind of OCD inside the bay if I'm gonna touch it. Anyways, if you guys found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel to stay on top of all my different DIY videos, whether it's on the golf cart, on the car, stuff I do around the house or the garage, or whatever it is. If I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.